Starting out with our essential idea, your liver is very big on regulating the blood, things like vitamins, iron, Fe, aka sugar in your blood in the form of glucose, storing glycogen, protein in your blood like amino acids. It's controlling the protein in there, and things like urea, okay, which then go to form your urine. So all these big things we've been talking about all year. Your liver is kind of the central organ that kind of coordinates what happens with it. And nature science, very important for us to do. We've talked a lot about cholesterol. Normally we think bad, right? Well, bad is LDL. That's what you want. You don't want, a low density. That does have a correlation with heart disease. Not super huge, only for some people, but there is one. What is good, it's HDL. I'm going to draw a heart around it. H, if I could write DL. That's my heart. This is good. You want this. It lowers risk for heart disease and stroke. So you go doctor, you get your cholesterol check, HDL, thumbs up. You want a lot of that in there. So here's the liver going about its normal duties. You can't avoid eating toxins in your life. So they'll things like additives, they put into food like dyes, additives. Additives. Oh gosh, I'm tired. Gotta get more comfortable here. There we go. So those are D's. Additives, drugs. We're not just talking about illegal drugs, though might happen, but things your doctor might give you. Tylenol. Tylenol is a big problem. Acetaminophen. It is really tough on your liver. They found that they really did not control the portions or the dosage rules on that, especially for little kids. A lot of kids got severe liver damage. Their parents accidentally gave them too much acetaminophen when they were kids. So any kind of drugs can be problematic here. Alcohol. We all know alcohol is a huge problem in our country, and cirrhosis is a problem from that. And your liver takes in those toxins and it does reduction oxidation reaction. Reduction oxidation. Sorry for the handwriting, it's terrible. And hydrolysis. Okay, oxidation, reduction, hydrolysis, basically breaking them down, making them easier to deal with. And then something called conjugation, which basically combining. So combining, that's terrible. Gosh, combining, I'm really trying. Combining them with other molecules so they can get easily flushed away, and they'll be removed through the feces as bile. Okay, bile in the gallbladder here, out your poop, and also you have urea being your liver breaks down old proteins, creates urea, that forms urine, and that is made by your kidneys. Red blood cells in general have a 3 to 4 month lifespan. Then they break down. They need to be recycled. And they use this protein called hemoglobin to deliver oxygen. And plants use a very similar molecule called leg hemoglobin. I don't know why I said that, but it's there. Now you know. But very important, And as we'll see in a second, your liver needs to recycle those and get that hemoglobin, and importantly, get that iron back out. You have these cells called Kupffer cells. Kupffer cells in your liver, and they break down the hemoglobin. And the heme group, that's the iron primarily, but also the bilirubin. Talk more about. Globin is an amino acid your body can get rid of or recycle as it sees fit. And then iron, we know that your red blood cells are made in your bone marrow. So it's kind of weird how people mostly think your blood cells are made like in your heart or maybe your muscles, but inside the bone, so they're technically part of your skeletal system, the blood cells. And then the bile, and this is your gallbladder right here. And that, of course, is a waste product, and it gets removed out of your body. So it's pretty cool. We'll see more bilirubin come into things later on. So erythrocytes, these Kupffer cells, they go in these red blood cells, so RBCs. They go in by phagocytosis, so you'll see it kind of put an indentation in here, and then you'll see them placed inside the vacuole. That's what this is right here, a vacuole. So they have this little membrane enclosed organelle type thing, and they will come into contact with lysosomes. And they have something very important inside. These little dots are enzymes that will then break down that red blood cell and grab that heme out of there, grab that hemoglobin. We know that goes to your bones. We know that globin gets broken down to amino acids. And we need that iron. Also, your spleen has something to do with this. Your spleen has these macrophages that can take that red blood cell and harvest that iron. Just like in your liver, you have these things called enterocytes. I'm sorry, in your intestines. My mistake. It can also break these down and produce the iron. And then the hepatocytes, I'm sorry, in your liver, where you can get that iron back out from these old blood cells, transport it to your bone marrow, and then recycle it back into erythrocytes and go through that whole cycle again. And you have extra cholesterol, and that goes into bile salts. So a lot of people will have their gallbladder removed, and there is some indication that's from a high cholesterol diet. So you make a lot of cholesterol. It's extra. Can't get rid of it, so it'll go into the bile, and that can inflame the gallbladder from extra bile, and that can cause an issue. Anyway, your food, your intestines, is where you get all these lipids. I'm having trouble. There we go. Lipids from your food, intestine, peripheral fat cells, also providing extra lipid. And this can be for energy production as well. And then blood lipoproteins, those are the HDL, LDL that we talked about before. But yeah, that combination of all those lipids, and then burning that lipid for glucose, make acetyl-CoA, and therefore go in the mitochondria and provide energy, ATP, and that extra cholesterol being removed in the bile. So this would be a good time, review protein synthesis. So protein synthesis. You know, you have your DNA, that makes RNA. This is all happening in your nucleus. Okay, this goes out into the cytoplasm, attaches to the ribosome, and the ribosome will make that amino acid and then go on either out of the cell, outside to do something, or it can stay inside, whatever it may be. And through here, between the ribosome and amino acid, you're going to go through the Golgi. You're also going to have the ER in effect. So review that protein synthesis, or just take notes. Write those notes on your paper there. So hepatocytes are very active. Your liver cells, we talked about, do so many things. They have a lot of ER because they have a lot of ribosomes making a lot of proteins, and that ER is a way to transport those proteins around. Lots of Golgi bodies. Lots of you can just think about it as a Golgi. And that indicates your high level of protein synthesis. And your hepatocytes, your liver's making blood proteins, albumin. Pretty good. That's what binds the bilirubin to help process that, and then fibrinogen. And that's important blood clotting, as you can imagine, very important. You have a problem, you can get rid of or clot the blood. So liver, it intercepts the blood from the gut. We talked about in those villi. Oops, that's not very good, villi. Like that. Okay, you got one blood system that goes to and from the liver. You got another system that just captures the fat that goes right to your blood supply. We're talking about carbs. Carbs are going to go right to your liver and get stored or get broken down and released. Proteins are going to go to your liver, and extra needs to be released. Your body cannot store protein very effectively. It can store fat, it can store sugar, but not really protein. And lipids here, broken down in hepatocytes. And then, of course, we saw earlier about cholesterol going into bile salts. So glucose, I mentioned earlier, goes in there, gets turned into glycogen. You also store iron and then vitamins A and D. It's stored in your liver. And as you can see here, pancreas, if there is higher glucose levels and a release in insulin, let's see, increase in blood flow. What would cause the liver to release glucose into the blood? It would be glucagon. That's when you're hungry, haven't eaten for a while. Your pancreas is going to release glucagon and insulin. If you haven't eaten in a while, it would cause to take glucose out and to store it. So jaundice, you may have heard before, happens when you're, a lot of people are born with jaundice. This is normal, and you can see because of the yellowing, this is somebody with jaundice. And this is buildup of bilirubin in your blood. And the normal amount is about 1.2 milligrams. So somebody with jaundice has roughly double that. And what are the symptoms? Why might a newborn be susceptible? And how can it be prevented? The cause. So liver cannot process and get rid of bilirubin. So it's just too much, and it's a dark color, so it's gonna show up. The symptoms, as you saw earlier, yellowing of eyes. Okay, that's the main thing you can see. And the reasons for, like a newborn, a couple different reasons. Liver is not ready. The enterocytes, the hepatocytes aren't quite ready. Not ready. Can't quite process it. A newborn is also, there's a high turnover of red blood cells, so they're using a lot of them. They're not lasting that long. They're being reproduced. So there's a lot of that bilirubin left over. So liver not ready, high bilirubin, and sometimes they're not feeding enough, and the bilirubin is staying in the gut, and that's being reabsorbed. So bilirubin is being reabsorbed by the gut. So it's not getting taken out because the baby's not eating normally, so it's staying in there, it's getting reabsorbed. Now what to do? Treatment. One thing that works is putting the baby in the sunlight or under UV lamps. So UV light, UV. Still not quite good. UV, that's better. UV light will break it down. So simply for newborns, putting under light for a while will be enough to break down that color, and they'll turn back to normal. An adult would have to have, some kind of analysis done to see what's going on with their liver. Maybe they have some early liver failure to figure it out. But normally it's not that big a deal. It's kind of gross. I mean, it's kind of yellow, but it doesn't have a lot of severe symptoms. It can, in kids, it can cause neurological issues if the jaundice is not brought under control. And liver's pretty fascinating. There's all these different blood flows. So we'll see hepatic portal vein. Remember, very, very complicated liver. Hepatic portal vein. So food, this is what I'm talking about. The villi, so from the villi. Think about that. This is from the villi and the intestines, and this is all that food being brought in. So, all the glucose and protein, or, in this case, it'd be amino acids being brought into the liver to be processed. God, you can't even read that. Or that. And this is where you have that processing happen. This is a little question up here saying, so how much oxygen would be in this blood? Now, it's already gone through the intestines. It's kind of fed the intestine, all those cells, all those billions of cells. So not very much oxygen. That's why you see not a whole, it's that kind of purple color. You have the hepatic artery here. And this is kind of keep it going. Since you don't have a lot of blood in this portal vein, you have a lot of blood, you just don't have a lot of oxygen. This is there to supply the liver with the oxygen that it needs for its mitochondria and all of those ER, to provide ATP for all those cellular activities. And up here, this is another hepatic vein. Hepatic vein. Gosh, dang. So all that blood, as it goes through, it gets collected and then brought up to your heart. And we know, up through the right side of your heart, right here, you have the vena cava. So this is going to the vena cava and then get pumped throughout the rest of the body.